Hi, everyone. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us tonight to celebrate the virtual launch for Khan Wong's debut novel, The Circus Infinite. I'm so excited to be your host tonight. We're in for a special treat as Khan is joining conversation with the author of Light from Uncommon Stars, perhaps known to you as the superhero Ryka Aoki. My name is Evan Karp. I am the events manager for Booksmith. We're an independent bookstore and a mainstay of San Francisco's Haight-Ashbury district since 1976. Ryka Aoki is a poet, composer, teacher, and novelist whose books include Hey Mele Ahilo and 2 Lambda Award finalists, Seasonal Velocities and Why Dust Shall Never Settle Upon This Soul. Ryka's work has appeared or been recognized in publications including Vogue, Elle, Bustle, Autostraddle, Pop Sugar, and BuzzFeed. Her poetry was featured at the Smithsonian Asian Pacific American Center, and she was honored by the California State Senate for extraordinary commitment to the visibility and well-being of transgender people. And also, she's the author of Light from Uncommon Stars, which is beautiful, and we had the pleasure of hosting her for that. So I hope some of you joined us for that event as well. And the star of the evening, Khan Wong, has published poetry, played cello in an earnest folk rock duo, and been an internationally known hula hoop teacher and performer. He's toured with the circus and produced circus art shows in San Francisco, where he also worked as a grant maker with the public sector arts funding agency. We are very proud to be hosting tonight. Khan, congratulations on this amazing accomplishment. And Ryka, thank you so much for leading the conversation. I'm really happy to turn it over to you too.
Right.
Thanks, Evan.
So, hi there. Hey, how's everybody doing? Thank you for coming to support Khan. I'm really happy to be here. I've read Khan's book about 3 times. Actually, not about 3. I actually have read it 3 times. And it is, I just love this book. I really enjoy the voices. I enjoy the pacing of this book is really fantastic. It's you keep wanting to turn the page. You don't want to go to sleep. I was saying that I was on an airplane. It's like I was on a long airplane ride, and I forgot I was on a long airplane ride when I read this book.
Awesome.
I love books that I know that I could never write, and this is one of them. This is a book that I think you're going to think of as extremely fresh, and in some ways I think like a much needed glass of water, especially if you are in the desert of sexual this and sexual that, and if you're ace or if you are demi or some sort of gray sexuality. This is a spectacular book, and I'm just honored to be here. So go buy Khan's book. You will not be sorry. So Khan, Circus Infinite novel. I know you know me. I mean, it's like we've come through poetry. We've done like a lot of things. This is a novel. Dude, this is a novel. A lot of people say they're going to write one, and suddenly, you got one. How's life changed for you?
Well, so far, it's not changed a whole lot. I mean, I feel like I'm still living my normal everyday life,
Enjoy it now because it's going to change. Go on.
I'm kind of looking forward to it. I mean, I know it's going to be a lot. I hope it's going to be a lot. I mean, a lot would be a sign of success, I suppose. So I hope it's a lot. But yeah, so I mean, this is my first novel published, but it's actually the 8th book I've written since 1997, I guess. Yeah. And this book actually I wrote during the first lockdown. And that whole situation actually kind of inspired it a little bit, not so much the content, but it was because of everything that was going on in the world, which it's even worse now, but we're not going to go there right now. But because of everything that was going on in the world at the time, I decided to really lean into escapism. And of course, it gets heavier than just fluffy escapism. At least that happened in the writing of it. But had I not made that intentional choice, I don't know that I would have gone as far with some of the world building and with all the aliens and the powers and all the fantastical stuff. I don't know if I would have gone quite heavily into all that.
I see. It's just so when you're writing a novel versus writing songs versus writing poems, what's different in your writing process?
Oh, I don't, well, I mean, with songs and poetry, there's a certain
Because
rhythm.
Khan is multi-talented. There's music going on here, there's poetry going on, and hula hoop. Just amazing.
That's
But anyway,
right.
go on. I'm sorry to cut you off. I just
Oh,
wanted
no,
to say
no,
that.
no worries.
Oh,
Yeah, so with songs and poems, there's a line by line rhythm and cadence that you're following, and like, well, I didn't really rhyme poems, but songs I was very conscious of rhyming.
mhm.
Um, and that's present, that cadence and following the rhymes pattern and everything is present in the drafting of the thing. With a novel, like for at least in the first draft, I am not thinking about how the sentences flow, or anything on a technical level. Really, that first draft is really just kind of getting the story out and conveying the world and getting the characters' voices. So that's the main thing. I guess the novel is much more vibey
Mm.
and less like paying attention like line by line to the rhythm of the words.
So, I mean, I had to learn with Light from Uncommon Stars, I had to teach myself to play the violin so I could write about it. But I am a musician. I was a pianist, and you've been working with circuses for a bit. You have a lineage, you have a history with circuses. What I found when I read your book, though, what I didn't expect and what I love about this book is the tension and the what's going to happen. And in some ways, it felt like I was in a circus performance, like watching Cirque du Soleil or something, that the beauty, I could feel the atmosphere, but there was always this, I hope everything's going to be okay. I hope everything's going to be okay. Um, so, did you intentionally, or does that just come with you for, how did your love of the circus as an art form, as a genre, um, inform your novel writing and inform how you put the story together? Because I found it fascinating.
Well, the I think the impact of or the experience of having been part of performances and shows in the past
Mhm,
really informed, all the backstage and slice of life stuff.
mhm.
Obviously, and with the actual performances, it was more. I mean, I'm happy to hear that you had that feeling of like
Uh-huh.
attention, and
Oh,
I
absolutely.
hadn't intentionally put that into the performances and
Mhm.
into the. I wanted it there obviously for like the crime world part of the story, but for the performances, it was more. I just really wanted to convey the feeling of like being in the room with these people doing these crazy things.
There's so much love behind there. It's like in the circus, which is a performance place, seems to be the one place where everybody trusts each other. There's just so much warmth and there's so much family there. Is there anything, I mean, is that part of your own experience? Were there people like that in your life that you went to?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, the whole process, the collaborative process of creating a show really forms those bonds.
Mhm.
And I mean, I did hoop stuff, which is kind of easy peasy
Oh,
in the ranking of like circus acts.
hey,
But
I'm just blown away anyway. But continue. All right.
um,
Oh, oh.
but like for the acrobats, for
Mhm.
people who do the trapeze or who do any kind of partner based stuff, absolutely, there's like an unbelievable level of trust. I mean, you're trusting your life, and so depending on what it like the specific act,
Mhm.
to this other person, like you're trusting that they're going to catch you,
Mhm.
or throw you properly, into the launch or whatever. Um, so yeah, I mean, so that I think that trust is kind of baked in a lot, and even if you're not part of that specific act, you get it.
That's what I mean, that rhythm and everyone supporting each other. In some ways, that kind of feels like, our Asian community and our queer community, as well. How long were you out? So what's your background in the circus? Because it's just, I love watching and reading when somebody obviously knows what they're talking about. And for those of you listening, I mean, you get the feeling that you are in the back of a circus. Now you're in space, but you really you can almost like smell the rosin. It's really, really well done.
Thank you. Well, so my background mostly was in a subset of circus arts called the flow arts. And I actually, I was never really formally part of a circus company. I did a tour with a circus through Southeast Asia a long time ago. And a lot, although we didn't have all the equipment, we were driving around in a little tuk-tuk thing on like unpaved roads or whatever. That's a whole other story. But I also did theater as a kid, so that like backstage of that whole experience, of those experiences also informed this. There's a lot of similarities between the two. But so I've been part of shows, and I've been on this tour, only the one tour though. I don't want to overstate the circus experience, but all of that really informed the feeling, I guess. That's the main part, was the feeling.
And that feeling really comes through. It just made me feel, well, first off, made me feel, how on earth did you do it? And because it's just beautiful, and it really put me as a reader in a great place. When you were working with the circus, did you intend that one day you would write about it and put it in a novel? Were you in that headspace?
Yes, kind of, sort of. I mean, it was always one of those, oh, one day I'll write a circus book, and and writing a circus book was on my writer bucket list. I hadn't anticipated that it would be an alien circus in space. I thought it would be more of an earthbound kind of story, but I'm glad it turned out the way it did.
I was wondering, well, first off, when I was first asked to read this book, I hesitated because I hate clowns and mimes. Going, please don't let it be a clown book. And I had but the genuine feeling resonated with me. The idea of chosen family within the circus really resonated with the chosen family I found both in the queer Asian community, the trans community, the community of the really writers that I'm really close with, and so, but I do notice that, I talk with you, we talk in our safe space, and then we put on our costume and we go out into the world and we do our act. Was that something you were thinking about as well?
Yes, for sure. There's a scene in the book. I don't think it's a spoiler.
I'm not going to be talking about any of this because I don't want to spoil. So
okay.
Just go. You can spoil your own book. Go.
Well, it's not a big plot revelation or anything. But there is a scene in the book where our main character, has been asked to attend this business meeting, and he has to go and get he goes and gets a haircut and some new clothes, and it's when he first meets the juggler in the show. And when the juggler is picking out, is looking for something for him to wear to this meeting, Jess, the main character, refers to the costumes, that are on all the racks, and the juggler comments, well, isn't everything we wear a costume? And so, yes, for sure, what you just said really resonates, because there is an element. I mean, when we're with our friends and our community, we can be ourselves, but there's always going out into the world. When I was still working my day job, there was a certain demeanor I had to put on, and just going out into the world. Even I live in San Francisco, which is a very queer friendly place, but not always. And
San Francisco's changed.
It has changed.
It hasn't.
Yeah, it has changed, and there are pockets of it. I kind of feel like I'm still here holding it down for like old school bohemian San
Mhm.
Francisco, and there's still certainly a vibrant queer community here. Um, but yeah, but it's this communities around us have changed quite a bit. Yes, that's for sure.
That's what I also found out, it's like the circus, I'm not gonna go into too many spoilers, but the circus is always threatened, right? Until like the end it resolves. And in a way, it does feel like our little circus troupe and, like in places like San Francisco, the businesses are gonna come in and suddenly there's going to be Google buses throughout the galaxy. So I really enjoyed, again, that feeling of somebody writing from a position of, knowing what he's talking about and doing it really, really well.
Thank you.
Mm. So, I was reading your bio and I found out that you're Asian and I happen to be Asian too. I don't know if you know this anyway. But talking about non-chosen family, just the family that we were all part of, were they supportive of your writing? I just want to know. I mean, this is also just for me as much as it is for people listening, because we all have different experiences.
Right. Not particularly.
Mm.
They were kind of well. All right. So there's a real generational gap. My sister and my cousins were always like, "Yeah, go for it." Um, my parents and some of my older relatives were like, "Well, it's okay if you want to keep doing your little hobby, but
Mm.
but don't think anything's going to come of it." I mean,
Uh-huh.
like that was the attitude, and it was kind of very dismissive. Um, I mean, nobody really actively discouraged it. Like nobody was like, "No, you cannot do this. It's wrong. Stop." It was more like
Mhm.
pat on the head. "Oh, how cute! You
Oh,
want to do
yeah.
this?" And if you want to keep it as a hobby, as long as you do something practical, then that's okay. Was the
I
attitude.
I hope that they see that this is something far more than a hobby. But knowing Asian parents, it's like, it's like, eh.
Yeah,
I
my
forget
mom was
there.
very excited though
Yeah.
about yeah.
There was this one, I forget her name, and I'm sorry, but she was speaking at the AWP, and I'm just totally having a brain fart, and which is bad because she had won the Pulitzer, right? And and her parents are still saying, well, you still need a fallback. Asian parents will always be Asian parents.
They will.
Um,
Yeah.
so, so I knew when I was writing like from Uncommon Stars, there was this moment that I was teaching myself to play, or when I was actually playing, and I could hear sympathetic strings going. And I knew this was something that I could bring to my reader. And it was something that somebody who normally didn't play or wasn't intimate with the instrument wouldn't have gotten. Just I have something here that I think will make the readers go, wow. With you and circuses, what did you offer? What do you think? What do you have to bring to the reader, sort of that inside scoop on circuses that you want them to pay attention to and that you kind of feel really proud to, or really kind of smart to bring?
Right. Well, I mean, mostly it wasn't about the performances so much as it was about, like I said before, the feeling of the camaraderie of the
Mhm.
group, and the backstage kind of madness.
Are people that snarky for real?
Some of them are, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, not naming any names, but yeah.
Mhm.
Um, and then, I'm mostly. I mean, I've never been an acrobat, or done any of those, or done any aerial acts or anything like that. My background is with the object manipulation disciplines, and so got a little super. I had to pull back a little bit, but I went most detailed in describing Maxo's performances and the juggling acts, because those are the things I knew
What a queen.
most.
Moxo, just what a diva queen. Just
Yes, he really
what,
is.
yeah. Is he based on anybody you know?
No,
I don't
not
want to get you in trouble,
yeah,
but yeah.
no, not exact. He's based on my impression of what a particularly famous juggler, who I'm not going to name, but
We
there
don't need
is
to
a
do that.
famous juggler that I don't know in person,
Mhm.
but I imagine that his personality is like how Maxo is in the book.
For those of you listening, Maxo is a character in the book and is just one of my favorite characters. Such a diva, and and that's what I really enjoy. As much wonder is going on with the circus and with the space part and with all the intrigue, the little things you do personalities really, really well. It's probably the poet in you, huh?
I think maybe so. Yeah, I did do a lot of persona poems when I was more actively writing poetry.
Mhm.
So getting in somebody's head and figuring out how they would, what their voice would be is, yeah.
So, I mean, why did you take the circus into space? I know you said escapism, but I mean, I didn't set out to write a science fiction novel either. And there it showed. I mean, at what point did you say, my gosh, I'm writing genre fiction?
Well, I had done a bunch of the world building,
Mhm.
not the specifics of Persephone 9 and all that, but like a very large picture of the different species that are
Mhm.
in the Nine Star Congress.
Mhm.
For those of you who haven't read the book, there's an alliance of worlds that exists, that the story is set in, called the Nine Star Congress of Conscious Worlds. It's my federation.
Mhm.
Um, and so I had done the world building for that. And I actually had originally intended to write a murder mystery, like a diminishing cast murder mystery.
Mhm.
But that wasn't working. And as I mentioned, I had on my bucket list writing a circus
Mhm.
story, which I had always imagined was going to be an earthbound circus.
Yeah, that's why you
And
said that. And
yeah,
this is so
and then
cool.
and then I was like, okay, well, this murder mystery idea isn't really working out, but I've done all this world building, and like I would like to put a story in it. And then it just like it just popped in my head, oh, Alien Circus, duh. And then I went, it went from there. Um, Quintanessa were the first, actually even before Jess.
Really?
I come to mind. Quintanessa were the first. As soon as I thought Alien Circus, I thought, oh, Quintanessa,
I
like
I totally fell in love with Quint. I'm sorry, I just did.
I love him.
Where have all the cowboys gone? I want someone like Quint in my life, giving me big old hugs. But yeah, awesome. The thing about it too is when people write about circuses, there's like I said, I have a thing about mimes and clowns, and there's so many tropes around circuses, the insane, all this kind of thing, the insane clown, and you don't follow into any of those. And I really find that refreshing. Did you find that, when you're thinking about writing about the circus, were there any things that you just thought were tired or sexist or, or just even racist or, just things you just wanted to correct?
Um, not not exactly. I mean, there were things in society in general that I wanted to correct. And I think or at least model a different way of being, around racism and sexism and all that, but not circus specific.
Mhm.
And that could be due to my limited experience with, I mean, like I've never worked for Cirque du Soleil, for example,
Mhm.
so I have no idea like what that would be
Yeah,
like in
because
terms of those attitudes.
in the book, you have levitating triplets. Okay, you have levitating triplets that could have gone so badly, in the hands of a lot of writers. They would have been sexualized, it would have been cringe, it would have been a mess. There'd be an obligatory sex scene with levitating triplets, that sort of thing, and it would have been awkward, but you didn't do that. You never broke you never sacrificed the dignity of the characters, and I found that so refreshing. It was just I could read this book, and you didn't have these sort of potholes, these things that these suddenly it's going to get cringe. Um, do you ever have those feelings where like you're like reading something, it's like, I wish I really hadn't read that?
Not for a long time.
Mm.
It's been a while, but I kind of know. I mean, Twitter, writer Twitter has been a revelation, and like finding out which books contain those kind of cringy moments and avoiding them, you know.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah, but it's been a long time since I've really read anything quite like that.
mm.
Yeah,
I wanted to talk about this too, because what I also have been telling everybody is you identify as ace and as gray, right?
that's correct.
And you use ace and these terms as is, as we have them right now in 2022, unchanged when you're talking about the galaxy. You know, the character identifies as ace and uses that. And I found that so fascinating that you didn't turn it into something else. You just laid it on the line, and as if it were something that was a fundamental identity to, you know, people throughout the galaxy. And I just thought that was spectacular. Did you do that on purpose? Did you think, how am I going to word this? And was this a political act? Because it was badass.
Thank you. I did do it on purpose, yes.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, I suppose, like, I mean, like for me, it felt more like an artistic choice than a political act. But of course, I mean, being queer people of color, like, how can we not create something that would be political? I mean, you know, like,
Preach, brother. Keep going.
like it just is, you know. Unfortunately, I mean, I feel like I mean, I wish we didn't have that
Mhm.
over us all the time, like, you know, some people have the privilege of. Um, but that actually was, I mean, taking that approach to, I mean, not just to the ace identity, but queer identity in general. I have to shout out, like, that was totally inspired by Schitt's Creek.
Mhm.
You know, one of the things I love about that show is that, like, queerness just is, and the queer people just are, and it's not a thing, and just that treatment of it,
Mhm.
like that really, I I modeled how the approach to all that,
Mhm.
in this book, on the way they treated it in that show.
I like to think that when we're talking about different identities and different sexualities and different gender presentations, as we go with queer, it's not just about representation. It's about what we can bring to the table, new ways that we can illuminate relationships for humanity and people in general, as opposed to just this is how we do it.
Mhm.
We can, like, you know, maybe give straight, you know, folks, you know, something to think about. So with thinking about that, is there anything that you feel that, you know, ace and asexual and even demisexual relationships can teach, you know, folks who might not share those sexualities about their relationships?
Um, I, I what I hope to at least get across with Jess and Bo's relationship is,
Mhm.
this idea that, like, romantic love and this kind of that kind of commitment can exist, without smashing your private bits together.
That that
um,
was that was the honesty, and when you when you wrote about that was so poignant, by the way.
oh, thank you. Um, yeah, I mean, I did set out with I mean, not just that main relationship with Jess and Bo, but all the relationships amongst all the cast, all the circus cast. Um, like, I wanted to model just genuine, authentic ways of being that are not, um, I don't know, I don't quite have the word, like, modulated, I guess, or through this, you know, through these kind of inherited attitudes of, um, what relationships should be, what romantic relationships should be, and sex and sexuality. I mean, the fact that where we are in our current history and people are still having the argument, can men and women be friends? Like, come on. You know, like what the fuck? And there are so many people who struggle with that question, who believe that it's not possible, and it's just, I feel such sympathy for that limitation, and I do see it as that, you know. So I did want to depict friendships and, you know, other kinds of relationships in a way that kind of gives an example, you know, of another, just another way to be in the world and relate to people and not get hung up on all that.
I really appreciated that. I mean, you know, I don't identify as asexual, I identify as demi. And so I'm somewhere on the scale, but it's like not the most important thing in my life. In fact, it's somewhere, you know, I don't know, down with parsnips. But you know, it's good. You can cut them, you can bake them. It's really nice, but you know, I don't really miss it when it's not in my fridge. You know,
I love parsnips.
I love parsnips too. You know, they're really, really good. But I've never woken up in the middle of the night saying I must have parsnips. You know, can usually wait to the next shopping trip. So when I was writing, when I was first writing, you know, what held me back is I couldn't write about sex scenes. I just didn't like it. I didn't like that kind of relationship. That's not the way this mind operated. And it was so freeing when I realized that I didn't have to, that it wasn't necessary to be a legit writer to, you know, talk about this, you know, it didn't need to be there. And so books like yours that talk about relationships in this way, I think should be required reading for people who are asexual, who are ace, to show that you can write compelling, honest, horribly dysfunctional and jittery and cringeworthy in all the best rom-com ways without doing that, you know, from an asexual standpoint. And I found that really cool about your work. And that's why I'm kind of trumpeting it to everybody.
Oh, I so appreciate that. You know, I only have recently come to the realization of my asexuality. I identified as gay for most of my life. And I mean, this isn't really the question that you asked, but I'm going to start talking.
You know, this is your party. You talk, you go.
And, you know, but I did always, I did always have romantic attraction to men. And so I thought, but, you know, I didn't have the understanding of romantic attraction and sexual attraction not being really the same thing, you know? And I have throughout my life always felt very uncomfortable in a lot of spaces where it's mostly gay men. At bars and things. I mean, that's like when you're a gay person, it seems like the social life just revolves around bars and picking up and people and all that. And I always felt really uncomfortable in those kinds of spaces. I never really fully understood why. So yeah, I mean, so a few years ago when I started reading, you know, and of course I knew the term asexual, but I had a particular idea about it, and it didn't feel quite like who I was. Yeah. But then as I learned more about it, I mean, because I did experience horniness and like to get off and like, you know, like all that stuff. So it's not like I was, you know, and I'm not sex repulsed the way that Jess is. But I thought that that's what all asexuals were like. So I didn't. So it took me a while to come to the understanding that like what my situation is. And once I did, it like so many things made sense. So many situations I've been in my life like make total sense now.
It was really realizing that the asexuality spectrum is actually, there's a lot of different ways people negotiate that is was really one of the more emancipating things in my life, almost on par with uh, realizing I was trans.
Mm.
It's like, wow, okay, no pressure, we're good. And I want more people to, like more portrayals. Even in my book, you might notice there are some kind of like scenes of rape which don't count as sex that's violent,
Mhm.
but I tend to write the actual sex scenes kind of low key because that's just where I like to indicate more than I like to talk
Mhm.
about, because that makes me uncomfortable. And so going through it like that, I felt a real kinship reading your book.
Oh, that so that makes me feel really good. Yeah, I mean, as a writer, you want your work to connect, with folks in this way, especially with people who kind of need it, Yeah, I'm not opposed to explicit sex on the page, but it's just not what I'm,
Not the easiest thing
it's
for
not
me
what
to
I do.
write. Yeah, I can read it, but it's not exactly the easiest thing for me to write. Maybe I should try one day some more. I don't know, 50 shades of what the hell, but but there it is. So I wanted to talk a little bit, right now we have a couple questions coming in, and folks, I'm not dominating this conversation. In about 5-10 minutes, we are going to move to questions, and everybody who is going to have a question, you must go ahead and put that in, because Khan is here. Khan is here for you, and wants you to buy that book. And I think you should buy that book. But more than anything, just join in community, because Khan is is somebody that is an author you should really get to know. There's so much that he can offer. Um, so I was thinking when I was reading this whole idea of sussing, the first thing that I thought of were the British sus laws. Did that have anything into it? This idea that, because, and I know it's a different thing, but it was interesting that you used the term sus, in the Black community in England, the sus laws were a big, big deal.
I actually am not familiar with the sus law.
Oh, so the sus laws were where you could actually pulled over by the police and detained if you were suspected of committing a crime, which means if you looked black,
Right.
you might be a criminal. So those are sus
Well, that's what
laws.
they call profiling, I guess.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
profiling. Except, yeah, go on.
Oh no, no, that was not in my mind. I was really, it was nothing super deep. I wanted to use an unusual word for like sensing somebody's feelings. I wasn't like reading or whatever, and it was really sus from the sense of sussing something out.
I think as marginalized people, either for our, that poor woman who was just punched in New York, a whole bunch of, did you notice the anti-Asian sentiment kind of
Yeah,
going
yeah, yeah.
on? And, being it's like, by the way, folks, if you are, if you can just be careful, just like, the Asian community is under a lot of attack. And so if you like what we're doing and you don't want to see us like die, please look, we didn't bring COVID to the world. Cool it, because all we want to do is write really, really good stories and bring them to you. Um, but
I had early in the pandemic. I mean, just
Mhm.
we were talking about costumes before,
Mhm.
and earlier in the pandemic, and when the anti-Asian stuff first started spiking, I totally put on this like I totally did this look. I mean, obviously the mask I was grateful for, but sunglasses and put the hood up, and like tried to obscure my Asianness as much as I could whenever I left the apartment. So just to bring it back for a second.
It was rough. Yeah, and being able to suss people would have been a wonderful gift. Just being Asian in this world, being trans. I would, people in the trans community. It's like, if you could suss people and figure out who is going to be in, who is angry at you, or who, what's going on through their mind, that would have been incredible. And I was just wondering if that whole, and so not the name, but the power to go into some and to figure out their feelings and their, their possible intentions. Do you think that had something to do with, being queer, being a person of color?
Oh, for sure. Both being queer and being specifically the child of immigrants. There's like through my whole, I didn't understand queerness when I was a kid. I was kind of like a girly boy, kind of a sissy boy, which of course made me a target. And of other kids.
I have no experience with that at all.
Yeah, I'm sure you have no idea.
Oh, no idea, no idea.
And then there was the and then there was the Asianness and being surrounded and being in a predominantly white environment. And so I kind of learned early on how to just to blend it, like what I had to do to blend in, how I had to behave, how I had to speak, how I had to carry myself so in a way to minimize the whatever attention I was getting. So for sure, like having lived for a long, I don't really mostly do that now in my daily life, but occasionally, depending on what the situation is, but I totally lost track of the question, but yeah.
I don't know. You were doing amazing. Just keep going. Just run with it.
But yes, so due to my experience of particularly childhood experiences of being queer but not really understanding what that was, and not being white in a predominantly white environment, I did kind of learn what I had to do to blend in. Yeah.
I kind of,
and
it tracks with me too. I kind of agree with what you're saying, or not agree. I share a similar experience. This is something you agree or disagree with, right? It's just, that
you've either been there or you haven't been there. And so and that wasn't a conscious, I didn't intentionally set to, it's funny, this is interesting. Because Jess does do that. His whole thing now is at the start of the book, this is not a spoiler because this is how it begins, is, finding a place to hide out. And, he uses the abilities that he has at his disposal, to help him do that. And that certainly was informed by my lived experience. But it's funny because, it's so obvious now that we're talking about it, but at the time that I was writing it, I wasn't thinking, oh, let me draw my childhood trauma. I wasn't thinking that.
I don't think we can. That results in a different kind of book, but I think it's something we as artists, channel just because we are who we are. What do you think?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I can't speak for every artist's process. I feel like there's probably similarities to what I'm about to say.
Really important to say.
But I think one of the things that artists of any discipline have in common is the ability to channel their lived experience. It's sometimes in unconscious ways. And take experiences and ideas from really disparate realms, and it kind of like,
because we're sticky, right? Things get to us, right?
And there's this alchemy that happens.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
That inside us, that and then we get this idea. It's like, oh, I want to write this story, or oh, I want to write this song, or whatever. And it seems mysterious, and like this bolt of inspiration has struck, but really, it's all of our experiences like churning
Mhm,
in us, that, and then it finds release,
mhm. Absolutely. That's a really good way to put it. I have one more question that I wanted to talk about. I'm going to try to word this without spoiling the book, okay?
Okay.
Um, but we do have a situation where, you know, you have a character who is, and characters are put in an institution, and and in the name of finding out more about the universe, horrible, horrible things happen. That's not spoiling, right?
No, that's
Okay,
not
good, good, good.
spoiler.
So my question is, and for those of you who read this book, I really don't want to spoil this because I want you to really experience the book, face it, just open, have a great experience reading it. But I wanted to know from you because it reminded me of people wanting to know what it's like to be Asian, or authors asking me, how do you write a trans character? The point where it just really is invasive. And I just want to tell them, in a very neat and polite way, off, because it's like I've heard this, questioned over and over, and it's dehumanizing. It's dehumanizing, that you don't think of me as anything more than an Asian or trans woman, a woman of color. Really, is that all I am to you? What about the rest of me? So it really resonated and really touched me. So I want to know your opinion. I mean, people do have a right to know. We are thinking creatures who are curious, but where's the balance between that and cruelty?
The balance between asking those questions and
Between curiosity and cruelty, how do you know when you've crossed that line?
well, I hope I've never crossed that line with somebody. I mean, it's like I mean, it all comes down to like, do you recognize somebody else's humanity, or do you not? And I think that intent just, I don't know, it's like, it's more of a feeling, like when the person's asking the question,
Mhm.
um, it's like you can kind of tell
Mm.
where it's coming from, but I mean, they might not use the right words, or their language might be unintentionally harmful, out of ignorance more so than out of intent. But it's like, are they smiling and laughing when they're asking it? Like, are they? I mean, and you can kind of feel when somebody's genuinely interested in you as a person, and they genuinely want to know what your experience is because they want to understand, versus they just want to poke at the freak show in the cage.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's like, it's weird to talk about, but I mean, I can't explain it other. There's this energy exchange that happens in that interaction that kind of lets you know.
That actually resonates a lot with your book. You have this kind of energy exchange going on.
Yeah.
Mm. So go on. Go, please.
Oh no, I just, because what you just said in this topic, there's it reminds me of something that happens in your book,
Mhm.
when the demon crafts Katrina's, the protagonist, for those of you who haven't read Ryka's book, her biography, and makes a point of noting that she's transgender. And there is a passage about how her music was never going to, like, now that she's been presented this way, her music is never going to be just her music.
Right, just been cloven from her music, just with that boom. And it has, I hope that changes, but it still does happen in our community.
It does.
And it's something that I was thinking about when writing this book. But the way I kind of did it, being in Aries, is just kind of just going head on and just making it a point. And then hopefully by making it a point, the art comes through anyway. takes a little bit of trust, like you did with Ace Identity. It takes a little bit of trust to address something so literally and trust that you're going to make it into something artistic. I think you pulled it off wonderfully.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I've got a couple important things to ask. Well,
Okay.
first off, do you have anything else you want to ask of me since I'm here?
Well, I not so much ask, but
Uh-huh.
a comment is I am surprised that you learned violin
Mhm.
while writing this book, because it really comes across as you've like studied for years. And yeah, when I
Well,
was reading
here's,
it, I thought, oh, she must be drawing from her own experience of being a
you
childhood
know,
prodigy.
I actually can pass myself off where people think I know what I'm doing way more than I am for about a couple minutes. I can play positions, I can do things like that, but most of it is its voice. And when the violin and I connected, when I realized I could sing through it,
Mhm.
and then suddenly it's like, oh, we have a relationship, and then it's like, I think we'll be okay with the book. I think I can give you honor when I write about the violin. And so, and I took everything I knew about piano, everything I knew about spoken word, everything I knew about, about performing as a musician. And I guess that's what we do. We create stories, right?
That's
So,
right.
yeah. So, that's the other thing, everybody, when you're reading these stories, please, I know that, Khan the man is a really interesting person, but remember this writing and the art, and I know this is duh to most people, but with artists of color, I need to keep stressing that, you know, there is creation going on, and there is art going on, and there is crafting, and there's plot, and it's more than just lived experience. It's the way that Khan takes that lived experience and makes something new. And that's what I think makes Circus Infinite so damn infinite. What do you think, Khan?
I appreciate you saying that. Actually, this wasn't in my head when I started writing it, but it got in my head as I was writing it, and that is this idea that, like, because this is set in this like made up universe and amongst these alien creatures and stuff, I thought that maybe because of that, people wouldn't leap to the assumption that this was autobiographical, or
Mhm.
that was based on like my like
I
my
hate to inform you, but they will. Oh, but they will.
I know. I mean, there are
And yeah, yeah, just humans are tenacious in their preconceptions. But the last thing I want to ask you, and by the way, you've been amazing today. It's just been so much fun talking to you.
Well, you've been amazing. Thank you so much
Oh,
for
you're so welcome.
my
Honestly,
book.
my pleasure. I'm just looking forward to seeing Circus Infinite take its place, amongst like the books that are beloved within our community. But I wasn't asked this question when I had my release, and I regretted, I didn't regret, but I wish somebody had asked me this. I'm going to ask you, who do you want to thank?
Oh, um, gosh.
It's yeah. Who do you want to say thank you? It's a beautiful day, and it takes a village. So, who do
Yeah.
you want to thank?
Well, everybody's thanked in my acknowledgements page, but like, so there are two friends in particular who got me writing again. And I had alluded to, this is the 8th book I've written since the late 90s. I won't go into my whole like publishing story, but I took a break from I totally completely set aside my writing aspirations for a long time, 18 years to be precise. And yeah, for a long time, during all the time that I was like learning and doing all the circusy stuff, I was not writing at all. And there was this, I was on vacation and hanging out with a couple of friends, Jeffrey and Anna. I hope they're watching. I don't know if they are, because I don't
Hi,
see
Jeffrey and Anna.
Hi, Jeffrey and Anna, if you're there. And we had this like, you know, late night conversation, you know, as one does with old friends that you don't see all the time, about you know, about writing projects that we wanted to do, and we made this pact to not just leave it as, oh, someday we're going to write this. You know, it was going to, like, we're going to write this. And that actually that was the spark that got me writing again. And it was not, that book that I wrote was not the Circus Infinite, but it led into the world that the Circus Infinite is set in. And it was really that conversation. Like, I don't know, that conversation and making that promise to each other that we were going to write these things that we wanted to write. If I hadn't had that accountability, I don't know that I would have ever really gotten back into it and finished a book, much less the next one. So,
well, we owe a lot to them because this is a spectacular book. This is a book that really spoke to me. That, you know, that I could enjoy because it's not my writing style. It was fresh. It was intense. There were some real feel-good scenes. I don't usually feel that good about violence, but there were some scenes where it's like, yeah, he deserves it, yeah, you know, and things like that. And I found it just a fun, enjoyable, and gorgeous read. So thank you for that. And so now if there's any other questions, so we have a question right now from Andrew Gilman. Do you have it in chat? I'll read it out loud. When you were writing Jess, how did you balance the darkness of his past with the hope and light of his present and hopefully his future without tipping one way or the other and bogging down in pain or getting unrealistically light and bright?
Well, to be honest, that balance came through the magic of editing and revision. But in the writing of it, you know, I kind of compartmentalized. You know, I had a really good sense of Jess's essential gentleness. And I wanted that to come through. Like, that was kind of the guiding light in all the scenes, in every scene that I wrote with him. And, you know, and my original conception of the book, at least in the early drafting, was I had thought it was going to be more of a light and fluffy, you know, I mean, like Becky Chambers and her, that kind of cozy space opera thing that she does was my model. And
this isn't like, Becky Chambers.
no, it is not. It is not.
No, but it's Khan Wong. It's something. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then the violence and the darker elements took me by surprise. And at first, I was like, I don't know, this might be too dark for what I'm going for, but it felt really essential to the story. I mean, obviously, it's really essential to the story. So I just went with it, and I hope that it is balanced. I mean, this person asking the question feels that it is. So that
Andrew,
that's Andrew.
Yeah.
So that is heartening because, like, I wasn't totally sure how fully balanced it was, you know. But yeah. So really being clear on kind of Jess's core nature and just making sure that I was true to that, no matter what was happening around him.
This one here, for those of you listening, I think the two books that I would compare Circus Infinite to would be Everina Maxwell's Winter's Orbit. This is in the same sort of vein of a lot of intrigue happening around characters getting threatened. There's PTSD, there's abuse issues going on and coming to grips with that. And there's a lot of derpy romance that happens, and there's misunderstandings and, you know, all of that kind of like cringy, kind of like, why don't you just talk it out kind of thing. You find yourself kind of yelling at the characters to get it together. And so that's one book, Winter's Orbit. If you like Everina Maxwell's Winter's Orbit, I think you're going to like this. The other book that I think if you liked, you'll probably like the Circus Infinite is TJ Kline's Under the Whispering Door, because that's another one where somebody is learning a lot about themselves, and there's horribleness, but there's also underneath this sweetness, and there's this just as the main character here is escaping something and is yet sort of tied down in Under the Whispering Door. There's a protagonist that literally has a hook in their chest and is trying to figure out how to have some degree of freedom while being so bound. There's a lot of, so if you like that part, if you like in TJ's work, if you like the introspection, if you like the character development, the feeling sometimes of inadequacy that the protagonist has and how they resolve that, I think you're going to find something really special with the Circus Infinite. And so if you're a TJ Klune fan, I would also suggest you buy you would buy the Circus Infinite, because I think you're going to like it. So for those of you who like Everina Maxwell and TJ Klune, go buy the book already. I mean, buy it, and we should be good. But is there anything else you wanted to say to the wonderful people? I'm so honored to share this evening with you, this launch with you. But is there anything else you wanted to say to your fans? Greet them, say hello.
I have no idea who's here, but hello everybody.
Yeah, we can't see. We're in Zoom land. You're somewhere else. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for being here. I hope you love the book. If you buy the book and read the book and love the book, please rate it or review it, rate it on Amazon, on Goodreads, on all the places, or wherever places you go to. This obviously this book means a lot to me, not only because it's my first book published, but I really wanted to reflect back to the community that inspired this book, the love and the kind of like way of being in the world, and I hope it reaches beyond beyond the specific community that inspired it.
I would think that for those of you who read these books, or with Khan's book, or even my book, if you like that, please talk to others, because many times people have preconceptions of what kind of stories we write, or that it's not going to have anything for them, because we don't make any secret of our marginal identities. But we're both writing, and many of us are writing for all of you. We have something to share. So sometimes new readers need that additional nudge. So if you like Khan's work, don't just like it and don't just write about it, but also tell a friend who might be going, say, no, you're going to like it, because they will. Thank you.
I've actually been tempted to cheekily say, well, yes, I'm actually an extraterrestrial, and this book is about the world that I come from.
That was well done. But let's just say, we need to thank Booksmith and the rest of them for having this happen. So thanks for doing that, and let's call you back into the room, and take it from here, Evan.
Thank you, Ryka. Thanks for leading this conversation. It's been really lovely. And Khan, congratulations. It's been really.
Everybody in Zoomland, let's go ahead and clap for Khan.
Clearly, y'all clap. Make some noise wherever you are.
Congratulations.
Send out the good vibes for Khan. Khan, it's been really fun working with you on this event, and I'm glad we got to do it and to celebrate the book. And
congratulations, Khan.
I love the
book.
And Ryka, I loved your book. I was so tickled when you agreed to.
I wouldn't miss this for the world.
If you are watching, you don't have the book yet, you can click through and order. We do have signed copies of the Circus Infinite, and we'd be happy to send them to you or hold them at the shop. You can also get Ryka's book from us, Light from Uncommon Stars. I encourage you to get them both. maybe
And from them, and get the book from them.
and
Thank you.
get them from us specifically. Thanks. Ryka is helping me do my job. You're the best, Ryka.
You're welcome.
And
By the way, just if you'd like, I'll send some book plates over to you too, so you can have. I don't have them physically signed, but
yeah,
you
for
know,
sure.
send me an email or talk to talk to Tor, and we can send some book plates over to you. Okay.
That sounds great. Thank you. Thank you. And hopefully we can all party together soon in person. But until then, y'all take care, and hopefully I'll see you here in Zoom land soon.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Bye, Khan.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Congratulations, Khan. You rock.
Thank you, Nika. Thank you. Thank
Bye.
you. Evan.